Hey there, it's Karie Bible, tour guide at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and welcome to week 11, I think, of Hollywood Forever Tour Talk. Let me know if you're here and you're watching or listening because sometimes I just don't know if this is even working right or getting out there. I just got back. I had a private tour today. It is July 4th, Saturday, and I had a private tour group. They wanted a lot of obscure graves in addition to the main tour that I give. So the tour that I did today wound up going 3 full hours long. So I am sweaty and kind of gross right now, but that's okay. Still in my tour dress. So, first and foremost, the update that you were probably all here for, at least many of you, is close up. Well, this week, close up bit me. Yeah, it's true. I went to the cemetery to visit him briefly and I fed him. I gave him treats. I gave him a head scratch, which he loves. But then I kept petting him and petting him. And I find that when I'm really getting stressed out and having a tough time, petting cats or dogs and animals really helps me mentally. And I guess I just kept on petting him and he had enough of me. So he just hauled off and bit me. And I was upset. I called him an ingrate. I verbally reprimanded him, which verbally reprimanding a cat is probably one of the most pointless things I've done in a long time. But all is forgiven. Again, it was probably my fault. I was not observing close-ups boundaries like I should have. So I have only myself to blame. But today he followed the tour and he posed for a ton of photos. People fawned over him and he loves being fawned over. So he had a great time. And he's just such a ham. Close up is just such a perfect name for him. So one question some people have asked me is, can I guarantee they will get to see and or spend time with Close Up on the tour? The answer is this. He is a feral cat who lives in a cemetery. So in other words, I can guarantee you nothing. There's a good chance you'll see him. There's a very good chance, in fact. But I can't, like, absolutely, without a doubt, promise that will happen because that would not be really realistic. Okay, so I know things are still weird with the pandemic at this time, but public tours will resume starting July 11th. You can't just do walk-ups anymore the way I used to do. So if you want to take a tour, you need to book online, cemeterytour.com. And I do have to cap the groups at 10 people and keep them very small with the masks and social distancing and all that jazz. So, diving into our star today. Today we're going to talk about the great Tyrone Power. I love Ty Power, and for my personal opinion, I think he is one of the more underrated actors in Hollywood's golden age. He was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1914, and he came from an acting family, a dynasty actually. His father, Tyrone Power Sr., was a character actor in silent film and on the stage. His great-grandfather was on the stage, and Ty's mother was a stage actress and an acting teacher. So show business and performing were basically in Ty's blood. He made his stage debut at about the age of 7 years old. And when he got a little older, his parents divorced and his dad was out here in Hollywood. So Tyrone came to visit his dad at one point, and his dad suddenly died, and he was in the middle of production on a film at the time. So Ty's out here in Hollywood with no money. He's like a teenager. His dad drops dead. It was really a very stressful and difficult chapter for him. And he didn't stay here. He went back east and he went back to the stage, which he loved. And later on, he would come back to Hollywood. When most people talk about Tyrone, they always talk about his looks. And yes, he is a stunningly handsome, good-looking man. But I always like to point out on my tour that there's so much more to people than what we see on the surface. And in the case of Ty, he was a complicated man and also a very immensely talented one, far more than I think people gave him credit for being. But he came back to Hollywood and he spent most of his film career at 20th Century Fox. He starred in a lot of the swashbuckling epics. And there's so many little ties to Hollywood Forever. For example, Tyrone remade Zorro in the 1940s, which Douglas Fairbanks had made in the 1920s. And he also remade Blood and Sand in the 1940s, which Valentino had starred in the 20s. And Tyrone usually did these costume period dramas with just lavish sets and costumes. And again, they kind of got slotted in these roles. The problem with a lot of character actors and even stars, especially at the time in classic Hollywood, was once they were good at one thing and that kind of thing made money, the studio didn't want to let them stretch. Because to the studio heads, they were business people first and foremost, and making money and profit was the thing. And for these actors, they were artists first and foremost, and making art was their thing. So it's inevitable that you're going to have a lot of clashing going on between those two different priorities. And Ty really wanted to tackle more dramatic roles to really show that he was a great actor and not just, a hunky, handsome matinee idol kind of guy. His first his first wife, was actress Annabella. She was French. And he had an affair with Judy Garland also. Then Tyrone Power enlisted for service in World War II. He was in the Marine Corps. He became a pilot. He served for about 3 years and different missions, combat. He had a very, very, very big experience in World War II with his military service. And as is often the case when people come back from a war, they come back a very different person than they were when they left. And in the case of Tyrone, he seemed a bit more hardened and sad, and there was more of an edge to him post-World War II than there was before World War II. And Tyrone really wanted to, again, prove his acting mettle, so he fought tooth and nail to get the 1946 film Nightmare Alley made. And for a long time, you could not see Nightmare Alley. The only way I saw it was in 2005. I was very fortunate to see a nitrate print of this at the UCLA Film Archive. But for a long time, this was more or less an unseeable film. But finally, it came out on DVD, and I highly, highly, highly recommend this film. Tyrone plays a downward spiraling drunken carnival worker in this movie, and he is sensational. And it really, again, it shows that he had range, he had skill. There was so much more to him than the romantic idol or the matinee idol that he was so incredibly tired of playing. And eventually Ty left 20th Century Fox. He wanted to make films independently. He wanted to be a freelancer. Of course, as was the case with a lot of stars, they quickly find that that is also a very tough road to go down, only perhaps in a different way. But Tyrone did that. Also, after World War II, he had a relationship with Lana Turner, but he jolted Lana and wound up marrying Linda Christian, and they had 2 daughters, Taryn and Romina. Then they got a divorce, and Ty was married to a woman named Deborah Ann Menardos toward the end of his life. And Ty was supposed to make a movie in Spain called Solomon and Sheba. And he had to go get a physical before the movie, which is often, even to this day, a requirement. And the doctor said, you know what, there's something going on with your heart. I think I'd like to come back and have you do some more testing. And Ty said no. He said, if there's something wrong, I'd really rather not know it. So he went over to Spain to make Solomon and Sheba. He was doing a very rigorous sword fight sequence on the set of that film when he collapsed of a massive heart attack. And he died later that day. He was only 44 years old. It's very sad. And one of Ty's greatest wishes was to have a son. Well, his 3rd wife was pregnant. He was so desperate for a son. And they didn't have sonograms in 1958, so no way to know. But Ty was, in fact, going to have a son. And Tyrone Power Jr. would be born a few months after his father's death. And I say this on every tour that I give. I can show you the grave and I can tell you the stories, but the movies are how they live on. And in the case of Tyrone, a lot of his film career is on DVD. And a while back, Disney acquired Fox, and I kind of did some panic buying because I was a bit afraid that some of these Fox titles might just completely go out of circulation and be impossible to find. So I did kind of haul some Tyrone Power goodies home with me. And of course, Nightmare Alley, a tour de force for Tyrone and a terrific film noir. I also very highly recommend the 2 Tyrone Power box sets if you can get your hands on them. The first one is it says the Tyrone Power collection, but this is really sort of the swashbuckling films and the action films that he did, some of them. And also in this box set is Blood and Sand, which he remade. It was made with Rita Hayworth and Linda Darnell. So you've got Rita Hayworth, Linda, and Tyrone, three of the most beautiful people who've probably ever lived, all in one movie, and it's Technicolor to boot. And then the other box set that I have is Tyrone Power Matinee Idol Collection. Now, these are the kind of films he really wasn't that fond of, but they're early films. Most of them are from like the late 30s at Fox. I'm not going to lie, they're not masterpieces of cinema, but they're a lot of fun. They're entertaining, and you can kind of see Tyrone's evolution from the early Matinee Idol days to the tougher roles that he tried to tackle around the 40s and after the war. And this also has several bonus features, including a documentary about Tyrone, a featurette from his children. There's a lot of cool bonus features in this disc set that I highly recommend. One of the joys for me of getting to live in Hollywood is getting to meet a lot of these people. And about a year or two ago, the Hollywood Heritage Museum, which I'm a member of, they had a special night, and they showed a movie Tyrone Power made for Universal called Mississippi Gambler, I think was the name of it. And they had all three of his kids there. So I got to see all three of them in person. And that was really, really cool. And the sad thing, of course, was he never got to meet his son. And his two daughters, they really don't have very many memories of him because he was so young when they died. They were young. I mean, it was really, really sad. But I think that, again, I think Tyrone is really underrated as an actor, and I think he has so much more to offer than people really realize. So if you can get your hands on some of these DVDs, I definitely recommend it. They're very good, very entertaining, and he's terrific. And Nightmare Alley, that will always be my absolute #1 Tyrone Power movie. And as far as books about Tyrone go, there was a biography about him, I think around the 70s, by Frederick Giles. And to be honest, I read it and really didn't like it. I felt that it wasn't as well done as I had hoped, and I wasn't a big fan of it. But I am a fan, however, of Janine Bassinger. She is a film historian back east, and she writes a ton of really terrific books. And she wrote an essay on Tyrone Power for this book called The Star Machine. And this isn't so much about Ty's life, but it's about his film career and his struggles within the studio system, which, of course, most actors really struggled with for the reasons I mentioned earlier. They were artists versus a business and star machine, and that was not a comfortable situation. So it kind of goes into a lot of what I've talked about and also things I haven't about Ty's career. Also, when I log off, I've got some some articles I'm going to post, some photos I'm going to post of Ty's final resting place. And some of you are chatting, and I can actually see it's popping up here. So came to the chat late. Yes, Tyrone served in World War II. He was in the Marine Corps, and he became a pilot. And he served for 3 years in World War II. And as I had mentioned, he sort of came back a different man than when he left. And I'm sure that was extremely common for people who fought in the war. It changed them and hardened them and really made them see the world in a very different way. So Tyrone was no exception to that. Someone asked, yes, I do have 2 different colored eyes. And that is true. One eye is brown, one eye is blue, and my blue eye has a little piece of brown at the top of it. I wasn't born this way, for those asking. I was born with blue eyes. One of them changed when I was 7 months old. So anyway, I'll post some articles about Tyrone, and I really encourage you to read Janine Bassinger's book, to watch these movies. And again, that's his legacy. That's his gift to all of us, is the film. That's the thing that's going to live on long after he's gone, everybody's gone. The films are the thing that lives on. So, yes, his youngest daughter, Taryn, actually died this past week. She was 66 years old. So it's a very, very sad situation for sure. And I really enjoy, again, interacting with all of you when I do these. So if anybody has questions or comments, I'm happy to hang out here for a few minutes. It's 4th of July today here in America, and I'm not going out to parties or anything this particular year because of the virus pandemic situation. So I just gave a 3-hour tour. Probably after this is over, I'll post a few Tyrone Power things and go back to bed and take a nap or something. But anyway, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to weigh in, and I'm happy to answer them. Oh, you watch Zorro twice a year. Yes, that's a great one. That's a great one. I was lucky enough to see Zorro on the big screen at one of the movie palaces in downtown LA, and yeah, that's a great Tyrone Power movie too. I really enjoy that one. I really like his work with Linda Darnell. I think they are so terrific together. So, all right. Well, if anyone has any other questions, I will answer them on Facebook. And thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I really, really appreciate it. And I hope to see you all on a tour when this pandemic is over, or if you live in Los Angeles and you're willing to wear a mask and social distance, you can try to take one during the pandemic. And again, I thank you so much. This has really been a pleasure to do, and I'm really glad to be able to interact with you guys. It's helped me a lot and helped me keep going during what has been a very difficult time. Do his children come to the cemetery? Yes, actually. Tyrone Power died in November, and every November they have a memorial service for Tyrone Power. And I try to go to it when I'm able to. It's sometimes they have the Marine Corps come out and they do a 21-gun salute. They have people that maybe knew Tyrone that get up and speak. And I actually met his son one day at the memorial service for Tyrone. So it's kind of a small one, but usually they do it mid-November every year at the cemetery. You can call the cemetery around that time of year to confirm the details. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much, and just watch Tyrone Power movies. They're a lot of fun, and they will definitely take you on a journey out of the crazy world that we live in right now and into something far more pleasant. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next week at Hollywood Forever Tour Talk.